English translation 577th contact. Thursday, the 2nd of January 2014, 15 o'clock hours.
I was lucky. I have also just done the 5 spelling corrections with Eva that we found together with Bernadette during our correction work in the last contact report, and here you are.
It is also 15 o'clock HRS, as I said, that I will be in your working room at that time.
Of course, I only meant that I was here in time. But may I ask you questions right away?
You told me at the beginning of our correction work that you had questions. Of course, I am ready to listen to them and answer them if I can.
I am sure it will be, but first I want to explain to you some more strange events that have taken place since your last visit. I will not name them openly, but slowly things are piling up and there is also damage. I do not want to talk about them openly. I do not mean in the way that it will appear in the report of the conversation. You know why? So then the following. The question now is whether you have been able to carry out investigations or studies with the new equipment and devices from the Sonarn crew.
During the last 3 weeks, we have been working intensively on this unpleasant matter, and we could clearly see that no impulses of any kind have hit the protective screen, which is directed and secured for all possible coarse and fine energies. If energy impulses of any kind had been registered, then highly effective filters would have sorted them out and recorded them, but nothing of the sort happened. Nevertheless, the strange occurrences have happened, as you say.
Yes, that is why we have also talked about it several times and have come to the conclusion that perhaps certain energies are being smuggled in through the water pipe and through the telephone and electricity lines, and that this is how the strange occurrences are triggered.
We have also considered these possibilities, but we have not yet been able to investigate them. In our opinion, these are the last possibilities we see, and we will try to clarify this next week.
It would not be good to talk about it publicly, because everything seems so unreal that it would not be accepted as the truth by outsiders.
That is what we think, too. And our thoughts even go as far as to say that it is probably expected that you tell the whole thing openly, and that the group members who know about it also talk about it in public. In our opinion, either this is actually expected of some malicious grouping, so that you and FIGU and its members in general appear to be untrustworthy to the general public, or it is a power which on the one hand wants to do the same and on the other hand also tries to influence Earth humans in general in a malicious way. This is obvious to us. And indeed, if it is a grouping that arranges the whole thing in the way you mention, it is only for the reason that the Earth humans remain under the spell and bondage of religions and sects, and continue to be exploited and misled and kept away from the real reality and its truth. If, however, it is a religious sectarian power, then the same unworthiness is likely to arise. So we see behind the whole thing a religious and sectarian grouping or power which wants to keep the scepter of the delusion of faith in its hand, or which acts through the religious sectarian delusion of the believers in religion and sects, which has been spreading very powerfully for a few years before the millennium.
We have also considered such sectarian aberrations. But if this is the case, I mean in relation to a grouping, it must have quite advanced technology at its disposal. But if it is the power of the delusional belief in God, which is unusually fomented by religions and sects, to drive human beings back into religious and sectarian beliefs, because that belief has been crumbling for about 25 years, and more believers are moving away from the delusional belief, then the whole thing looks really bad.
Our suspicions are that these strange events are meant to harm you and the FIGU as well as all members and therefore also the real truth. We also assume that the foreign energetic influences are also supposed to affect the thoughts of the human beings in general and to be directed towards religious and sectarian matters, as you have just said. And this, we further assume, will probably also extend to Earth humans in general, in order to keep them away from reality and its truth, and to force them more deeply into religious sectarian belief in God, as I mentioned earlier, and if I may continue to use your terms.
Then things can still get nasty.
It is now to be seen what the results of our investigations will show next week. Of course, I will inform you as soon as possible about the results.
What do you or they think overall? Can the whole thing be related to the four groupings?
No, we do not think so.
While we are on the subject of the four groupings, this grouping of those foreign to Earth is obviously again and again allowing itself to be observed by the Earthlings. That is to say, their various flying machines are being seen again and again. At least, I assume that these observed flying objects belong to those foreign to Earth, don't they?
These Earth foreigners are indeed relatively often active worldwide, which is why their flight movements can also often be observed. Apart from these Earth foreigners' flying apparatuses, however, there are also secret earthly flying apparatuses with strange constructions, which can also be observed sometimes. These flying apparatuses, however, which we are now talking about, are a matter of concern to Earth foreigners, who move in all airspaces around the world.
They are also observed from time to time in Europe, sometimes shining down beams of light to the ground and making vehicles and the human beings shine. Just this week I was told of such a case in Germany, where a truck driver was suddenly blinded at night by such a flying object hovering over his truck and radiating a strong light, the light being, as the driver explained, extremely harsh, while in addition no sound could be heard from the object itself, so it was completely silent.
We are familiar with such light patterns from silent flying apparatus on vehicles and human beings, as well as on buildings, animals, and the ground. And they are typical of the Earth foreigners I mentioned, about whom we have gained much more information since my last visit on the 9th of December. This has been made easy for us thanks to our new technical equipment, although we run no risk of being noticed by these Earth foreigners because their technology is still inadequate compared to ours in general. And just as it has been up to now that they have not been able to detect and register our presence, it will also remain the same. In those days when we made ourselves or our flying apparatuses visible for your photographic work or, exceptionally, sometimes also for group members so that photos could be taken, we always shielded ourselves from any other view so that only a wedge of sight remained open from our flying apparatuses to the cameras. The same was true for eye contact or normal observations, so that in this respect, too, only one wedge of sight to the eyes of the observers remained open, and the flying apparatus was also shielded against any technical detection, etc. As a result, it was never possible for other observers, such as Earth foreigners or Earth humans other than those for whom we made ourselves visible, to see or locate our flying apparatus, and this will also continue to be the case.
Thanks. You have explained more than I expected in relation to my question.
Then I will come back to what you told Florina last Tuesday night to tell me about the Quetzal Directive, concerning Sunday services which fall on special Sundays and holidays where it should not be possible to swap, etc. In this respect, I convened our panel at short notice and submitted the request I had been given to it, resulting in the following panel statement. Quetzal's order in this regard was made in accordance with a decision of the committee which was to be unalterable, and for the sake of justice, in the sense that all members of the group were to perform their services equally on the special Sundays and holidays, so that the same members would not always have to be called upon for these services. So the regulation is in a democratic sense of community, as it was worked out by the committee and accepted unanimously by the whole group, because only in this sense the equality of all and the general fairness can be given. It has been irrevocably established that absenteeism applies only in the event of illness affecting a person's personality, in the event of an accident, or in the event of death in respect of immediate family members and life partners, and also in respect of officially fixed and unavoidable deadlines which must be observed, as well as fixed or contractual working hours or deadlines which cannot be avoided. Other failures with other reasons cannot be valid, also not with regard to private or self-employed activities, if these are not contractually fixed in a decisive manner. So in any case, the honest fairness towards the community and the individual is in the foreground, and therefore this must be decisive for every member. Only in this way can a true sense of community be a reality, and each member be granted the same rights.
Thanks for your clarification, which I consider necessary as a renewal. From time to time, repetitions of such clarifications with regard to previous decisions are simply necessary because again and again many things are forgotten that were once importantly decided upon. What you have said is more or less what I have also explained, because that is how I remember this arrangement regarding the relevant Sunday and holiday services in the center.
The fairness of the individual towards the whole community corresponds to a value which must always be in the foreground and must be cultivated, whereby this fairness naturally also refers to the relevant behavior of each individual person or each individual member of FIGU.
I see this as a matter of course, because every human being must not only nurture and cultivate fairness towards the community, whatever its nature, but also towards his or her own personality. But if he does not do so, perhaps because he cannot do so for selfish reasons, or because he is unable to do so, or because he is not understood or not able to do so, then he cannot exist either before the community in question or before himself. I think that the human being is deceiving himself in his attitude and behavior if he does not cultivate this two-way fairness, which in the German and Swiss German languages is nothing other than a decent, honest, and fair attitude, and a comradely and correct behavior towards others.
Which probably needs no further explanation.
Thanks. If you are not in a hurry, then I would like to discuss with you privately and also in connection with the FIGU some things which I want to settle with a notary. On the one hand, it is a very unfortunate thing, at least as far as the private sphere is concerned. But on the other hand, it is simply unavoidable, because things have come up which you know about, but which require special precautions.
I am not in a hurry, but I suppose I know what it is about, because you made a remark about it on the 9th of December.
True, it is the matter that was raised at that time. So, what I have now is this.